Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rap Podcast, featuring Ralph Vargas, Amanda Dominguez, Raul Carvalho, and Daniel Duarte. Today, we're going to be talking about the Roaring Twenties, Great Depressions, and World War II, from 1920s to 1945. Enjoy.
Hi guys, my name is Raul Carvalho. So this is how Roaring Twenties started. The Roaring Twenties had a big boom right after World War One. The boom was caused by all the profit and all the things we were able to accomplish after the war, since we had minimal damage, where we didn't fight the war really on our own land.
The 19th Amendment granted all women to vote. And getting into more of the topics, let's talk about technology-wise. Like, what was invented during this time?
During this time, there were many technological advances, such as telephones, radio, and thanks to the radio, they're able to listen to music, such as the one playing now. This time, many people arose dancing jazz, Charleston, and women began doing what men would do, more manly things, such as smoking, going out to places.
Well, during the Roaring Twenties, also we started to see a lot of the KKK forming, and they were acting up due to Christianity and their beliefs.
They also spread the message that non-whites and non-Protestants were not 100% American.
Particularly in Indiana, following the murder trials of prominent classman D.C. Stephenson. If you think about it, it's not like the KKK doesn't exist nowadays, but
yeah,
they still coexist, and we've managed to coexist with them now after a few years. They still tend to have their same racist beliefs and their same beliefs. There's more regulations to it now, and they can't do whatever they want. Clearly, they'll probably be killing a whole bunch of people. And everybody here in the United States is an immigrant. There's no non-immigrants other than the Native Americans.
So most of us are.
Alrighty. So during the Roaring Twenties, there's a lot of economical problems, which led into the Great Depression due to all the mass production, and people started to be unemployed, and companies weren't able to sell the products they're producing. And Ralph, you have anything to add?
It's just it's somewhat what's happening today, because today, nowadays with COVID-19, people are stuck at home, not being able to work, and a lot of factories and places are forced to either shut down or reduce product, because since our economy isn't moving, since we're only buying necessities, which is food, and not going out to places, money is staying within the economy. It's not moving around like if someone were to go to Disney World to enjoy.
So factories changed from producing cars to now producing medical utilities to help with the process.
Yes, but in doing that, they're not able to produce to their max level, because that's not what the factory was made to do.
Yeah, so exactly. And my uncle himself, he started creating COVID-19 masks, and his company was just making signs. They were 3D printing signs and laser cutting signs and things. And now they're just producing masks, because that's the only way to keep the company afloat.
Now they're just everybody's trying to get a job so they keep the bills going, because if not, a lot of people are going to lose their homes and their businesses, which would lead into the Great Depression like back then.
Yeah.
But hopefully it doesn't happen now.
Now we get stimulus paychecks from our taxes from last year, but back then, obviously they didn't have a reserve, so they were, pretty done for.
Well, we did have a reserve, actually. We just ran through the reserve really fast.
Yeah, because they put it all into the stock market trying to bring it back up again.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Everybody just wasted their money. People were dumb about it.
Now that we're still talking about the Great Depression, now we're going to talk about its economic standpoint. That means that what really happened and what was a cause of the Great Depression. So there was Black Tuesday, where a bunch of traders decided to spend $16 million in shares after another wave of panic swept Wall Street. Millions of shares ended up being worthless, and those investors who bought the stocks on margin, which was pretty much borrowed money, were wiped out completely, which left the banks really no money. If anybody were to come in and ask for their money, or if they wanted to withdraw everything, they wouldn't have any money left. So a guy randomly went to the bank, decided to ask for all his money back, decided to close his account completely, and the bank told him that they didn't have his money. So all his money that he had put into the bank didn't have it. So what he did was get mad, run to the streets, and start yelling that the banks don't have your money, which was the initial cause of the Great Depression.
People started to like want their money back, and then the banks wouldn't be able to like give their money back due to it crashing. And well, it crashed due to that. People wanting all their money back, and they weren't able to like, just hand out money to people because they decided to use it into like stock market.
And after that, President Roosevelt created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation to insure people's money to be saved in the bank. That was right after the stock market crashed. That's how they tried to prevent from happening again.
America turned their banks onto the outside world, diplomacy, financially, and militarily. They basically distanced themselves from everybody. And in doing so, they created new government policies such as the FDIC, the SEC, and the NLRB.
He tried to institute programs like the New Deal, which aided the recovery from the Great Depression. So they were able to provide work to those millions of people that didn't have jobs before because of this whole situation that was happening.
And just as they were starting to get their economy up and start getting back to normal, World War II started, and that was a whole new pandemic they had to deal with.
We were fine. We tried to, stay to ourselves. We tried to stay over here, do our own thing, ignore the world. But then, of course, us being a powerhouse brought us into the war that we tried to avoid.
As World War II started, many people were able to get jobs, that weren't in the military, because since when there comes war, there comes job opportunity to build bullets, guns, and everything for the war, which women began to start working a lot more factories.
All that when we annexed Hawaii. So then Pearl Harbor was attacked at December 1941, which led to the entry of America into World War II, which we did avoid. We avoided trying to come into World War II. But at the end of the day, if somebody attacked where we cherish, like one of our loved ones, or where it's one of our states, one of us, really, one of the United States, we're going to have to, get revenge, which made the factories go back to work in full productions of weapons, of tanks and all this, which helped us, at the end of the day, produce more, gain more stability, because throughout this, we were still trying to figure out how we were going to get out of the Great Depression with all this millions of people that were unemployed. Germany, we already saw that they were punished for it because they were forced to sign the Versailles Treaty, which was fueled to the rise to power of Adolf Hitler and his National Socialist Party, which were known as the Nazis, for hating. They blamed the whole incident where they lost World War I because of the Jews.
Adolf Hitler, yeah, that man, he decided to hate the Jews because he's a World War I veteran, which then became the leader of the World War II of Germany, the Nazis of Germany during World War II, which hated all the Jews because they believed that it was their fault that they lost World War I, which it really wasn't. They had no chance, honestly. Well, guys, during World War II, Adolf Hitler leading the Nazis on September 17th, sometime during the 1940s, they invaded Poland from the east side, which then they took over parts of Europe and Germany, everywhere, pretty much of the Europe. And they started creating concentration camps, which they started to put the Jews in and pretty much killing the Jews for literally no reason. They had nothing to do with anything that was going on. It was just them being rebellious. They didn't notice they were going to lose the war again. They thought they had it under control this time. They thought the same thing during World War I.
It's because they killed them because they thought they lost the first war because of them.
Yeah, they blamed it on the Jews for losing World War I, which really had nothing to do with it.
And World War II was known as one of the bloodiest wars with 75 million people. And Nazi Germany alone killed 6 million people, and 6 million of those people were the Jews, because it shows like their hatred towards them. 20 million military personnel were dead, and over 40 million civilians were dead, which means they weren't a part of the war, they were just casualties.
During and even after the war, we still had the depression going throughout the years.
The Great Depression, we were still trying to get over that, while the men were forced and brought out of their homes, and men that were at the age of 17 were recruited and brought into the war. The women were left behind.
Or stay behind to do like contributions to the war too. Like they built the guns and what soldiers needed to survive in the war.
Military weapons.
Yeah.
Women had to take a big part in factories since a lot of the men were out there in war. And since they go into war at a young age, 17, 18, a lot of the men were already gone from each country. So the women had to step up and take part of that task.
They also went to the military. They don't want to fight. They want to to be nurses and take care of the soldiers.
Yeah, like the medical teams.
Yeah.
And even though all this was still going, they still left the black people at their own unit. They pushed them aside and had them fight on their own units separated from the white men. Even though they were both fighting for the same thing, there were still racial inequalities and all this still going throughout. While women are working with dangerous bombs happened one night, women are putting their whole lives at risk at home, trying to build the materials and all the equipment that all the people that are fighting in the war need to be able to come out on top and win this.
And another note, coming back to what's happening right now, we use Social Security every day, and it's something we use for our safety and to save our money. It's something that was developed in 1935. It was developed to help economy, and now we use it in everyday life.
I'm Ralph.
I'm Raul.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Amanda, and this is Raw Podcast.
Hey, Ralph, stop the recording, man.
75 million people. Give me a sec.
Ralph, I want to pause this real quick.
Okay.
Hold on.
Ralph.
I'm Raul.
White power.